Hi, Randy.
Hello, how are you?
Good. We've got audience starting to come on as well. So you and I are out here.
So you're losing Karen, huh?
Yeah. She's decided to retire.
How is the market out there for people right now? Or I guess we're about to find out, aren't we?
There's been a fair number of postings around the province, but hey, they get to come and work with us. It's got to be worth something.
Yes.
Okay, well, that was when I think that's the first time we've made it through our closed agenda session with time to spare in quite some time.
Which is good.
Oh, there's Barb. I'll promote her in. There we go. Yeah, that's good.
I still find it weird doing it via this, but that's okay. Another year.
Mm-hmm.
I have to get my car insurance, and I'm thinking of taking the drive to work and back thing. I'm not paying that anymore.
I hope that I never have to go back in and buy my car insurance in person again. I love this remote. Sign a form, click a form, send it back, wait for the decal. Claire, are you monitoring the attendees to move in the trustees? Okay, I won't do that then. We do have an audience for the trustees that are online now.
Thank you. Well, I'll call the open board meeting of Tuesday, February 2nd, 2021 to order. I Squale CM Nasietya. I na Squalawan Kawana Silamnala. We respectfully acknowledge that we are meeting on the traditional and ancestral lands of the Kawatsan people where we live, learn, and play. So a motion to adopt the agenda, please. Moved by Trustee Thorne, seconded by Trustee DeGroot. All those in favor? Motion carries. Moving to minutes of the January 5th, 2021 open board meeting. A motion to adopt the minutes, please. Moved by Trustee DeGroot, seconded by Trustee Thorne. All those in favor? Motion carries. Today, no recognition and delegations. Moving to report of the closed meeting, Mr. Sandquist.
Thank you. The board met in closed session just prior to this open meeting and concluded its business today. They discussed personnel appointments, the progress of Cowichan Secondary School, local education agreements, and other property items.
Thank you. Moving to old business, the action list. I wonder if you could put that up on screen here for us, Mr. Sandquist.
I have it ready.
Thank you. And is there anything that staff wishes to update us on? I could mention that the Quamachin School motion is on the agenda tonight, as well as the Community of Care Pledge. Are there any questions from trustees? Okay, moving back to chair of the board for information. And the first is recognition of support during school fires at Drinkwater and Ecole Mount Provost. We have had quite a month of some things to work through. And the Board of Education would like to recognize and the support of those who earlier this month quickly identified and put out a small early morning fire outside of Drinkwater Elementary and then Ecole Mount Provost Elementary School. On January the 11th, Constable Margot Howley of the North Cowichan Duncan RCMP put out the fire at Drinkwater Elementary with a fire extinguisher. Then the North Cowichan Fire Department ensured it was completely out. On January 15th, teacher Wanda Young smelt and reported smoke inside Ecole Mount Provost Elementary. From across the road, the neighbor, Mr. Randy Wong, noticed a fire behind the shrubs near the front of the school, and with the assistance of teacher Sylvie Rosmus, entered the building. Along with Wanda Young, they grabbed two nearby fire extinguishers, ran out the front doors, and began to extinguish the fire. The RCMP and North Cowichan Fire Department arrived soon afterward to fully extinguish the fire inside the wall. We certainly appreciate the combined efforts of everyone so involved to quickly identify, report, and extinguish the fires, which allowed students to return to their schools the following day. Thanks also to the North Cowichan Duncan RCMP for their investigations into the cause of both fires, which resulted in the arrest of an individual for arson. We are grateful for the quick work, investigation, and arrest of a suspect in connection to these fires. Thank you so much to our community members that we work together when we have difficulties and things do resolve. Thank you. And of course, I should also mention our staff. I know that many of them are involved when we have these kinds of issues, and we thank them for that. Any questions on that, on recognition? Okay. Moving to item 7.1.2, 2021 partner liaison meetings. And you will recall that board chairs, ministry, and senior staff are invited to a liaison meeting. Usually they are one full day together. But this year it's divided into 2 half days, and the first half day occurred already, and board chairs, superintendents, secretary, treasurers, and ministry staff came together to talk about key issues like COVID, impact on learning, mental health, and equity of outcomes. We had 3 guest speakers, the Minister of Education, Dr. Reki Gustafson, our Deputy PHO, and John Hattie from Australia regarding student achievement. And the second partner meeting is this Friday. That's to just bring you up to date with that piece. The third is Cowichan Secondary School Replacement Community Consultation. And this month I have presented to the CVRD, to the joint meeting of the City of Duncan and North Cowichan, and to Cowichan Tribes Chief and Council meetings. They have all been very interested in the progress on the new Cowichan Secondary School replacement and are very supportive of our work and our ongoing work that we will have as we try to work through this economic and educational endeavor for the community. Any questions on that one? Okay, so moving to 7.1.4, BCSDA Vista Board Chair Zoom meetings. So we've had one BCSDA Board Chairs meeting this month. We heard from the minister and she answered questions related to COVID vaccines and FSAs and her mandate. Regarding FSA, she said it is in place for this year and there cannot be any change, but thinks that next year we can have a sector conversation about assessment and FSA, which to me was very encouraging news. It's always just been mandated without a whole lot of input from districts and boards. And as we all know, it's been controversial. Vista has had one board chairs meeting this month to share information and concerns. The Vista executive recommended cancellation of the spring conference and business meeting this year, which is normally held the first week in March, and that was accepted. So there will be monthly meetings of Vista board chairs, and then BCSDA AGM will have a section for branch meetings in April. We've also been told by BCSDA that provincial council reps, so Trustee de Groot, and should really take the pre-test information session because it's going to be quite an interesting challenge to amend and further amend motions on Zoom. So, good luck with that. And I imagine we'll have sessions for the AGM as well, because that's another case where we have so many people making recommendations for change on motions. So moving to the section on board action, the first is the York Road Corridor report. And I would ask the superintendent to go over that briefly, and then for us to entertain the suggested motion.
My apologies. Thank you very much. At the Board Education Board Committee meeting last week, we went over the York Street Road report in detail. And as you can see that overall, there has been a lot of work done from the district level. And it has also been done from the Quamachan school level. And we also have a number of partnerships in place with regard to ensuring that the safety of our children are really looked at. And so through those mobilization of efforts overall, we have taken note from the district perspective that there has been a lot of work, collaboration, and a process related to surveys of students, surveys of parents. And what we really are looking at right now is that we have recognized that in that particular area, that the issues have not more or less resolved, but certainly have been limited. And so I think at the very end of this particular report, it really discusses how we can really support, how we thank our partners. But we also know that we're doing an excellent job overall ensuring the safety of our children. And so I will just kind of stop there unless there are any questions from any of the board members.
Trustee Croft?
I think at BEBC, we just, and sorry, I don't see it in the report. We wanted to make an addition noting that the board response actually started in May and June rather than September. Did we get that into the final report?
We did. We absolutely did. We added that as an addition in the background area. Is that, yes, thank you.
Thank you. Any further questions on the report? Trustee Doman?
I don't think you can say things are better down there because it's ongoing. As long as there's patrols by the RCMP, Blackbird, or the people that Warmland have out there, there is less people around there, but they're still there, maybe a quarter to a half a block away. When it's really funny, at about 4:30, they all start coming back to that area. And on the weekends, there's a lot of people around. Like Sunday morning, somebody had built a little shelter in the back of the board office. About 9 o'clock in the morning, I noticed that. When I drove back an hour later, he was gone, but the problems are still there, and same with needles and debris behind the schools along the dike. If you walk along there on any given day, you'll find lots of stuff. So to say the problems have abated a lot, a little bit, yes, not a lot. That's my comment.
Thank you. There is a suggested motion that we receive the report. Is there someone to move that? Moved by Trustee Thorn, seconded by Trustee DeGroot. Any further conversation on this motion? All those in favor? Sorry, wait a sec. Trustee Doman, did you have a comment?
Oh, yeah, another question. How much is it costing the district? I think we talked about this last week. Going to cost the district this year out of the student budget to look after all this stuff.
Thank you, Mr. Sandquist.
I think in direct costs, somewhere around $15,000. We talked about the fencing rental, extra noon hour supports, extra security. Indirect costs would be related to staff time that's already paid and is now being directed to the study and preparation of these reports, etc.
Thank you. Are you ready for the motion then? All those in favor? Motion carries. Moving to 7.2.2, Quamitchin School. You know, on our action list, we had our earlier motion about considering designating Quamitchin School a closed campus until a resolution of the unsafe issues and subject to a number of pieces of information. One is a safety audit, two was the parent community survey, and the third, the discussion around changes between the superintendent and administration of Quamitchin School. We have received all of those pieces of information. So based on that, there is a suggested motion here that Quamitchin School will be an open campus subject to many conditions. The first is that the district and school administration continue with their connection to York Road agencies and their supervision supports. And that was in the York Road information. Sorry, the York Road report that we received. And I'm not sure what is happening with screen share here. Could someone let me know? Are you trying to find something that relates to what I'm speaking about. Oh, okay. All right. Oh, okay, the motion, yes. The second condition is that Board of Education and district staff will have representation on the North Cowichan Safety Response Model Gap Analysis. And it's a committee of people formed to address community safety issues in the York Road area. Third condition, the current additional supervision support from the school district to continue, and that's our noon hour supervision, our increased Blackbird security at lunch, and presence of Quamachin administration at lunch in the corridor. The fourth condition is that Quamachin School continue to provide the proactive student education work at the school, and that is also described in the York Road report. The fifth condition is a contractual form for parents' signature to allow their student to leave the campus during school hours. And in that form, there would be the information so that parents understand the limited supervision that's available and that parents release the school district from risk of liability. And the sixth condition, an annual review of the status of the school to be conducted by the Board of Education to ensure the safety of students is being well monitored. So comments on the suggested motion. Trustee Croft and then Trustee Doman.
Can I just get some assurance that the board still has the authority to close the campus if there were some other development to arise? So we're not hampering ourselves, are we?
No.
Okay.
We can always come back to any motion. And Trustee Doman?
Yeah, on point 5, a contractual form for parent signatures to dissolve the school district from risk and liability.
Mhm.
I can't support that.
And could you explain why?
What you're doing is you're saying it's unsafe out there. If kids go out, there's a potential for harm, if you will, if you go out off school grounds at lunchtime. That's not very good. And so, like I said, I can't support that. I think parents will go ballistic on it. And kids are going to look at it and saying, well, yeah, we'll sign it, because as they did with the survey, they didn't really tell the truth on the survey because they didn't want their campus to be closed. So just to me, it's just needs a whole lot more thought and probably some interaction with parents and students to see what they think on this.
I can just mention to you that we do have parents sign risk in this way on certain high-risk field trips. But I'll pass to Mr. Sandquist for comment. Or the superintendent, whichever of you wishes to go. Or both.
I think this is a recognition that parents are aware of the corridor activities and that when their children are out there, they're aware of what supports the school district is providing to ensure that is a safe environment. I think that I think that, this is somewhat consistent with the recommendations we received from School Protection Plan on this issue that were brought to the board at a previous open meeting. So they were talking about the potential for simply a recognition of the activities that are outside that their children will be going through.
Thank you. Superintendent, did you wish to say anything at this point?
I could. I think it also formalizes the communication process to ensure that the conversation has taken place between student, between parents, so that they fully understand what is occurring in that particular area. And so I think what it does, it just provides, again, that level of assurance that communication has occurred.
Thank you. Trustee Thorne and then Trustee Croft.
Yep. When my son goes to sports, as did my daughters, they signed a contract dealing with what they're going responsibility, who is responsible. And I don't think we're jeopardizing anything but increasing safety by having parents say, yes, I believe in my child being well enough to take care of his or herself, given the circumstances and what's down there. That's all I had to say. I think it's a good thing.
Thank you.
I understand what's going on and who's doing what.
Thank you. Trustee Croft and then Trustee Doman and then Trustee Kimler.
So I'm hoping staff could perhaps clarify, how is this different from our responsibility for children who aren't on school grounds at any other time? Are we liable for their well-being when they're off school grounds?
I'll pass that to Superintendent.
I think there's always a level of responsibility and liability on the part of a school district as well as a parent. But I also want to make a comment that I think it's around also a contract around code of conduct. And so I think that overall, this just provides that certainty that students will respond in a certain way. It could also add in, if there is an incident that's occurring, that they could report it also to the Quamachin administration office. So I think it just provides just a layer of support overall in terms of if students are leaving the campus. We do know we have field trips and we have low risk, medium risk, high risk, and we do very similar types of processes related to signatures of parents going to different locations around field trips. So it's quite similar.
Thank you. Oh, sorry, Trustee Croft.
I just wanted to follow up. I'm not necessarily in favor of releasing liability when a kid steps over the line. That wasn't my intent. I just had I had thought that there would be some legislation around that fact. So thank you for clarifying.
Thank you. Trustee Doman.
Yeah, I once again, people are going to go ballistic when they see that. They understand it's an unsafe area down there. And so we don't have to explain that to them. You ask them to sign this and you watch, a lot of them will go nuts. And we're going to wear this one because, I mean, our provincial government has been a failure on this issue, and VIHA has been a failure on this issue about making our community safe. And now we're asking them to do that. Like I said, it's just a bad idea. Just a really bad idea. As far as a contractual obligation, code of conduct for our students, I mean, that's a good thing, but I mean, that is just a bad idea.
Well, do recall that they have a choice. They don't need to sign it, and their student doesn't need to go into the corridor at lunch. So there is a choice there. Did you want to rebuttal that? Trustee
Yeah.
Doman.
Sorry.
Trustee Doman.
So you're asking them to give up their freedoms because they won't sign a piece of paper? That's why they didn't tell the truth on that survey, because they didn't want their campus to be closed. And not only did I hear that from my kid, I heard it from other kids and other parents. My kid told me he was going to lie on the survey just so they don't close the campus. Now you're asking them to say, well, if you don't sign it, you're not allowed off school grounds at lunchtime. Yeah, that's just not a good thing. And so, we're going down the wrong road here with this. And It's a bad idea. You're asking parents to sign something to let their kids off of campus at lunchtime. And the parents are going to go mad, and so are the kids. So,
Thank you. Trustee Camlet?
Several things. To start with, as Grace said it already, but in the school setting, we're often signing these things, whether it's a low risk, a high risk, a medium risk field trip, even just to join the volleyball team, you have to understand there's an inherent risk and that your child can get hurt. And parents sign these things all the time. This is nothing new. What I think is really fantastic about it is if I was a parent of a child there and I really didn't want them to leave the school grounds, I now have the way of saying, I don't want my child to leave the school grounds. I don't have to sign this piece of paper. And you're saying that the children will lie or they'll do whatever they will do. That's parenting. The parents can choose if their kids leave the school grounds. We've put in safety measures, and then we have a way to ensure that the parents' wishes are known. I think that that's probably pretty clear.
Thank you. Trustee Doman?
you're asking young adults, teenagers, which are young adults, you're saying, well, they're smart kids. They're, oh, okay, well, if we do this, say this, they're going to close campus and take away our freedom. And so they're not dumb. So that's what they did. That's why they lied. And as far as parenting goes, most of the parents agree. You're wanting the kids to take away, you're saying, well, we'll take away your freedoms if you say it's unsafe. So they lied. So that's not parenting. That's just what kids do. They're going, well, we're going to lose our freedom. And as far as field trips and volleyball and basketball and sports and skiing field trips, yes, that's a given. They're always signed, but you're asking them to give up liability when you step onto the sidewalk outside the school? That's just not good.
Thank you.
You're asking them to give up, sign a waiver form when the kids from Quamachin have to walk over to the board office to catch the bus, or the other way around.
Thank you. Trustee Croft?
Muted.
Sorry, folks. My concern is that we have item 5. We don't have the actual proposed written
Form?
Yeah, we don't have the form in front of us yet. So, and you tell me if this has any possibility procedurally. If we're okay with items 1, 2, 3, 4, and 6, would it help staff and our community if we move forward on that, but then put into abeyance number 5 until we can have the form in front of us? Is that an acceptable procedure that would help the board on this?
The board can do whatever they decide would be appropriate in this case. The problem with doing that is to move it out of the context of the whole conditions need to be in place in order to keep the campus open. Mr. Sanquist, do you want to comment on that?
Well, my only comment would be that would have to be an amendment to the motion to remove that item and add it back in at a later time. But currently the motion that's being debated includes all 6 of the items in regards to making the decision around maintaining the campus open. So if it's important to the reason why the campus needs to be open, then it should be in the motion.
So at this point, we do not have the motion on the table. It's only been here as a suggested motion. So is there someone who's willing to move the motion? Moved by trustee Thorne. Is there a seconder? Seconded by trustee DeGroot. Further conversation on the motion. Trustee Doman for the, and I'm going to recognize you only as your last comments, so make sure they're fulsome and complete. You're on.
Have our lawyers looked at this and will this hold up in court?
Mr. Sandquist?
It has been, the report came back to the board from School Protection Plan that did discuss the potential of a motion, but it has not been through formal legal outside of School Protection Plan.
Okay, so any further comments or debate? And Trustee Hutchins, I hope you've caught up to us on 7.2.2, Quamitchin School.
I've caught up to you in terms of the last 2 minutes of discussion, but I don't know what preceded it. My question is that is the senior staff and the administrator for the school comfortable with 5?
Superintendent?
I think that there has been a lot of work done by the administration at Quamitchin, and they are certainly in support of keeping the campus open. And I believe that they are certainly of the mind that they could actually do this process. And I think from a senior level, we would support that endeavor and ensure that it provides what we are actually seeking to do.
Okay, so Trustee Hutchins.
Just one other question. Is this, and perhaps to Mr. Sandquist, is this waiver, I guess it's a waiver, is it any different than we asked for a waiver for a field trip?
Mr. Sandquist?
But it hasn't been developed yet. That would happen following this motion, so it can take many forms, but I imagine it would be somewhat similar.
Okay, I'd like to call the question at this point. All those in favor of the motion? Okay, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So the motion carries. Thank you very much. Okay, moving to item 7.2.3, Community of Care Pledge. And if I could ask the Director of Communications to bring up our newly worded pledge.
Good evening, everybody. Just going to get set up here real quick.
Thank you for joining us, Mr.
Yes.
Russell.
Thank you for having me. I'll share my screen here shortly, and I'll have the Community of Care Pledge up for you to take a look at. This is after the feedback that we had received at advisory and that the board had discussed at our other meetings. And I will share that with you now. All right.
Thank you. So after the last input from advisory, we have added just a few new terms there, and it is in the first paragraph where we talk about the value of all races, cultures, faiths, socioeconomic diversities. And here's the new wording that was added: sexual orientations and gender identities, and the incredible contributions that these differences bring to our collective well-being. So the board has signed off on the pledge, and we now hope to have this communicated internally and externally, and our Director of Communications has developed a communications plan for us. So if you could share that now, it would be great. Thank you.
I will do just that. All right. So we've developed a communications plan for the Community of Care Pledge. Like the chair discussed, it is for internal, external audiences. So as of tomorrow, we will start with this. And it's going to be announcing the pledge via media release. And just going to adjust my screen here. Announce this pledge through media release and with a signed copy of the pledge as well. I have created a web page as well, sd79.bc.ca/pledge. And if you go there, any member of the public can join us in signing this pledge on that site. And that will be broadcast in all our communications as well. We'll also include the pledge and an invitation for the public to sign on all our social media channels. It will also be sent to all partner groups who provided input with the request to join in the signing and to share amongst their membership. And then framed copies of the pledge will be sent to all schools and will be placed in a public location.
Thank you very much for sharing with us. And now there is a suggested motion there that the Board of Education of School District 79, Cowichan Valley, directs the communication plan presented for the Community of Care Pledge be activated, including striking a board ad hoc committee on anti-racism. Is Trustee DeGroot, are you moving?
Yes.
Moved by Trustee DeGroot, seconded by Trustee Thorne. Trustee Doman, do you have questions?
So
Or
I was just going to move it.
Oh, thank you. Are there any, is there any debate on the motion? Trustee Croft?
A question for our communication director. Perhaps I missed something. Is there a device in the communication plan for people to request translations?
I don't have that set as that form, but we can look at that. We do have it, the wording electronically on our website, which does have through Google Translate any language that you'd like. So I can just make sure that that's highlighted a little bit more on our webpage.
Follow up?
Trustee Croft?
Google doesn't do Hulkaminum. And I think it would be important for, I checked, it would be important for us to provide it in Hulkaminum, and I would really like us to do that. Do I need to make a motion on that?
Director of Communications, do you need a motion?
No, I don't need a motion. Sorry.
Good.
No, that was mine to answer.
Yeah, that was such a great idea, Trustee Croft, that it can go without a motion. So thank you for the
Okay.
comments. So
Thank you very much.
okay, so are we ready to pass this motion then?
Yep.
All those in favor? Motion carries. Moving to 7.2.4 Vancouver Island University Letter of Support Request. We have been requested to send a letter of support to VIU Cowichan Campus to apply for funding for a career center on Cowichan Place. So I'd like to say that this is a grand idea by VIU. We know that Cox Isla Elementary is small. We've outgrown that career center, and how wonderful it would be if there was a career center close to VIU and our new Cowichan Secondary School. They have the mandate around post-secondary, so they have chosen to write an application to post-secondary to support a career center. So is there someone who would move this suggested motion? Moved by Trustee Thorne, seconded by Trustee DeGroot. All those in, any questions or comments? Trustee Croft?
Just didn't catch, to whom is this letter going, or is it just a standardized letter for everybody?
It is going to VIU to support their application form to post-secondary.
Thank you very much.
All those in favor? Motion carries. And the last item under board chair, thank heavens, is 7.2.5, letter to Cowichan Tribes. And I'm sure that all of us have been as shocked and dismayed at the racism that came forward in our community, as particularly directed toward Cowichan Tribes. And I don't know if Trustee Thorne wishes to say anything regarding the racism on your territory, and how important it would be for us to be supportive to them at this point in time.
I think a letter to chief and council would be in order to let them know that school district does support the fight against racism. And if I could speak as a Cowichan citizen, I think that 98% of the people are doing so good and they've made a lot of changes. The 2% that seem to stand out are the one that catches the attention. And I really don't appreciate the way media has played on it. I've grown up in this town and I've seen a lot of good changes. And I raise my hands to every Cowichan citizen who says, you know what? Transparency is a good thing. If we were to go into a non-native neighborhood where there is COVID people and we started standing in front of it, you know, it would look really stupid. People have to understand that we have given a lot, we have taken a lot, and we're no different than anyone else in this community. A lot of the businesses have gone out of their way to be supportive. You look at the doctors, the nurses, paramedics, the police, endless list. And you look at the average citizen who walks by and says, how you doing, Joe? It's okay. No, I think only thing we need to do is a good supportive letter to Cowichan Tribes saying that we do stand with them. I think that's a good, there's a design going around that says, I stand with Cowichan. Well, I stand with Cowichan, not tribes, but I stand with Cowichan because we are Cowichan, and it takes all of us to make a better tomorrow. And we're doing that one step at a time. Racism will always be there. You know, this group is diverse in our lifestyle. We understand some things, we debate some things, but in the end, it's what's good for the community. What's good for this community is for all of us is to take a deep breath and say, you know what? I'm not going to listen to all of that stuff because hidden is an agenda, and I'm not going to feed on it. I've made that very clear to everyone. I believe in Cowichan being compassionate, being understanding, and being human. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Thorne. And yeah, I'll say, okay. So would someone like to move this motion? Moved by Trustee Thorne, seconded by Trustee Croft. Okay. All those in favor? Motion carries unanimously. And if I could ask our Director of Communications to bring up the collage that will be sent with the letter. We should see many smiling trustee faces. Oh, do you have to bring him back in? Oh, there you are. Could you show us? Hello.
I'll bring this right up here.
Great, thank you.
There we are.
Here we are. All right. Great. Thank you all for putting yourselves on the line or in the box for us.
We're so cool.
So that we can express our support. Okay, moving to item 8, Superintendent of Schools.
Aichka, thank you very much. If I could ask Ms. Spencer to bring in Rhonda LaForge. I'd like to introduce her. Rhonda LaForge has been granted a new position within our school district. And I'll just wait for her friendly face to arrive. And there she is. And what I'd like to do is I'd like to welcome Rhonda. Rhonda has been at Alexander School as a teacher, and I think that many of us know her from some past work through the union means. And so she started her position as of February the 1st, and she is at Cowichan Secondary School, I think, as we speak. And what I'd like to do is introduce Rhonda to the board this evening. Welcome, Rhonda.
Thanks very much. Pleased to be here.
Thank you for coming, and we're very pleased to see you and congratulate you on the vice principalship.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Rhonda. Thank you for joining us this evening.
Absolutely.
And I'm sure you have some work to do already.
Yes.
Congratulations and good
Thanks.
luck in your new role.
Thank you.
And if I could ask you to bring in Darren Hart, and I'll just wait for a second while you can see his friendly face as well. So there is Darren, and Darren is currently a department head at Francis Kelsey Secondary School, and he has just been appointed a temporary role as a vice principal. I know he's been there for a few years, and prior to that was a long time teacher at Cowichan Secondary School. So we welcome Darren this evening, and it looks like already he's hard at work. He started February 1st as well. Congratulations, Darren, and welcome.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here, and I'm really excited in the job. So thank you. It's great.
Welcome and thank you. We appreciate the work that you're going to do for us as a vice principal. We know that. Thank you. Welcome.
Thank you very much, Darren. Have a good evening.
Thanks.
Okay, I'd like to move on to 8.1.3, and I'd like to give a COVID-19 update. I think for many of us, on the board, you're well aware of in the month of January that we've had a number of exposures in our schools. I just want to do a bit of a review of that. In Chemainus Secondary, Quamachin School, and Cowichan Secondary, there was an exposure the first week after the Christmas break. In the second week, the week of January the 13th, Alexander Elementary also had an exposure. The third week, starting on January the 20th, Lake Cowichan School actually had an exposure. And then the fourth week, we had Crofton Elementary, along with a second exposure at Chemainus Secondary, Cowichan Secondary, and Lake Cowichan School again. And so I really want to thank the staff. I know this is really led by the Public Health Office through a medical health officer by the name of Dr. Sandra Allison. It's a challenging time for schools when they have an exposure. And what an exposure really means is that somebody who has the disease happens to be at the school on those given days where we share with the community that there has been exposure. And so they do some very critical work. They develop a process. And in the end, they determine whether there's folks who have low exposure risk, medium, and or high. And so if there are some folks who have been exposed in a high risk category of somebody who has been infected at the school, then they would have to remain at home for 14 days to self-isolate. So the process is working. And I would like to let the board know that this is the process that was well established and put together in order for us to do the work alongside and in collaboration with the public health officer. And so it's been very challenging, and I'd like to thank the staff and the students and the community during a very challenging time when we've had a number of exposures in our schools. I do want to let the board know that we have secured Dr. Allison. She is going to be putting together a video with some of our questions that we have, and that video will be developed in the next couple of days, and it will be pushed out on our platform just so that we can answer those frequently asked questions for the community. So the doctor is poised and ready to go through that interview to actually share with the community the whole process and some of those frequently asked questions. So if there's any questions from the board, I'm happy to take those right now before I maybe move on to the next agenda item.
Trustee Doma?
How many people do we have in the district who've actually had it versus being exposed to it?
Well, this is people's private information, but what I can share would be that when an exposure occurs, it's usually only one individual who comes into the school who might be infected. And so that's an exposure. And so those folks are around that particular individual have been exposed to that individual. And so I think that the language that the public health office uses, that there would be more of a community transmission if it actually was transmitted in schools. So you can see the language is only an exposure at this point in time. And so these schools have had an exposure. And so I think if I could add on, I think the process that was developed would be that we have put our students in cohorts. So if they have been exposed to somebody who's infected, that only a cohort would maybe have to stay home rather than us having to cancel the entire school day for all students. And I also think that we know that with regard to elementary students, they're not expected to wear masks at this point so that they can go throughout their day in a school environment that allows them to engage and participate without wearing a mask. And that is guided, of course, by the provincial health office as well. So very challenging time for our schools. But like I said, I think they've done magical work in a very challenging time in terms of managing the situation and keeping all of our students safe. And I'd like to assure the board that the preventative measures that we use, they do work, and they do work very, very well. And that's hand washing, that's the daily self-checks. It's also the physical distancing. And so when we have those practices in place, it keeps the rest of the school very, very safe.
I don't see any other questions on this topic, but it would be important for you and others who are leading this endeavor for us are so appreciated by the board. It's not an easy thing to have health and safety protocols in place and practiced continuously, as well as responding to these kinds of events that occur. And we realize the stress and the time commitments that our staff are doing, and just want to send a lot of appreciation to everyone. Thank you. Trustee Croft? I think you turned your mic off instead of on.
Okay, there we go. I'll get it right this time. If I could, I'd just like to send a shout out to our students. I mean, we have 1,500 or so wonderful staff at all levels who are taking the lead in this, but it's also 8,000 students who every day get up and do the right thing all day, and they're doing this for their communities well. And so I would like to honor them with a big thank you.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Trustee Croft.
Okay, I can move on to 8.1.4. Okay, so we have a kindergarten registration update. On January the 22nd, we did have a lottery. It was held at the district office for kindergarten seats at Mill Bay Nature School and Ecole Cobble Hill. And I know that the Secretary Treasurer and myself and the Associate Superintendent Cheryl Kors, we conducted that lottery. There was no need for a lottery for kindergarten seats at Ecole Mount Prevost, just by the number of students who haven't, families who had an interest there. And so presently right now there are waiting lists at Mill Bay for 13 seats, and also at Ecole Cobble Hill for 3. And so in the last week of January the 25th to the 29th, the rest of the kindergarten registration took place across the school district. I can move on if there's not any questions.
Trustee Doman?
Are those all in catchment kids that are on the waiting list?
No, they would not. These schools would be schools of choice and district schools of choice. And so they could be from across the entire district in terms of the waiting list. I would have to look at the detailed information for that.
Trustee Kamler?
Is Mount Provo close to being full, or are we seeing quite a decline there?
I think there's only about 2 to 3 seats available at this time.
Okay.
Okay, I will move on to 8.1.5, and this is my superintendent's update. And so firstly, I'd like to do my own acknowledgement and appreciation because what we understand is through the new kindergarten process that we have some secretaries out there who are doing some amazing work with regard to questions and dealing with different ways of the information, because of course this is all online. And so they've been doing some heavy lifting, and they've been doing some extension of their work, and they're going as far as maybe even meeting parents at the school doors in order to help them around this new registration process. So a shout out to all of our clerical staff at the office sites. I'd also like to acknowledge Mill Bay Nature School. They have provided an outstanding response to the flood and the COVID challenges at Cowichan Tribes. And so from our principal, Kim Ondruk, Mill Bay has a deep relationship with Tusalem and a growing relationship with Louis Sylvester. And this caused the children to be moved by the particular crisis that was occurring in that community. They voted in their town hall, which is their weekly governance gatherings, to move a portion of their Move-a-thon proceeds, which was $1,000, to buying gift cards to Superstore for families in need. It was a landslide vote, and of course the children now have to wait a little bit longer for their slide in the playground because they did give up their $1,000 for that. In addition to that, the Mill Bay Nature School PAC, they initiated a bottle drive in one weekend raising $1,050. Families were involved in the collection, the sorting, and the cleaning up. And the money will be shared with Darla Smith, who is organizing fruit and vegetable distribution to any impacted families. The Eldest Learning Pod at Mill Bay Nature School called, I'm a little concerned that Trustee Thorne would be dismayed in my Hulkamene language ability here. Smuckwa, which is crane in Hulkamena. Created a list of practical items that were needed in the Cowichan people and children who were again quarantined at home. And their campaign collected 2 large truckloads of items. And then in addition to that, Mill Bay Nature School and Stuart Pagudwan partnered to create magnets of Stuart's I Stand image. Those magnets are selling for $30 with profits all going to the Cowichan people. And I think I have my magnet up here in support of this particular endeavor. And so very fortunate that Mill Bay has actually put this together in support of supporting our Cowichan tribes during a very, very challenging time. I also want to give an update on Wendy's House. On Monday, January the 11th, Wendy's House opened its doors at its new home beside the district board office. The move made necessary by the ongoing Cowichan Secondary School replacement project is now complete, and preparations have been finalized, and the center is ready to welcome families in. A huge thank you goes out to our district operations staff who worked to make this transition smooth and very successful. And for any of you folks going by, you would have seen that there was a lot of work that had to be done to actually move Wendy's House over there. It will be open Monday through Thursday and will be operating in 2 time slots. The first time slot is 10 to 11:15, and the second is 11:45 to 1. And due to COVID-19 safety precautions, only 9 people, including Miss Lori, will be allowed in the center at one time. So spaces will be assigned on a first come, first served basis, and parking is adjacent to the center. Upon driving up, you'll see one of 2 signs hanging on the chain link fence near the entrance. Green means come and play, and red means not today. So for those of you who would like to go and visit Wendy's House, now you'll know when you can go in and maybe when you can't. So we're very excited about Wendy's House being open and accessible to all of our families. I wanted to give the update on the board around our foundation skills assessment. It has been delayed, And so presently right now, students in our district, grades 4 and 7, they will be writing between February the 15th and March 12th in all of our schools. And there's a solid process in place with regard to writing that assessment. And then I also want to share with the board that there are the literacy and the numeracy grade 10 assessments. They just finished up. So all of our grade 10 students would have been going through that assessment from the weeks January the 18th through the 29th. And also there's a spring session that's coming up in April for another 2-week window. And then lastly in June for all of our grade 10 students. We also have the student learning survey open right now. It is for all of our grades 4, 7, 10, and 12, and that survey will be opened up until April the 30th. And for those of you from the past, that would have been our satisfaction surveys that are now called our student learning surveys. I had the great fortune to be at the Ministry of Education Enhancing Student Learning Framework learning session. It was around equity and excellence. I was able to listen to Dr. Avis Glace, and she spoke on enhancing the life chances of all of our students. And she is an excellent educator, long-time educator from Ontario. And so she shared with superintendents and I think board folk across the BC and really spoke around equity and what we needed to do for our students and our entire community. The next session is being held on February the 4th, and it's called Action for Impact. And again, establishing high yield strategies and measures. And it will be a panel discussion. And I believe that Shelley Moore, as well as Joe Corona, will be on that panel. There's also another session that the Ministry of Education is working on, and it's really around sessions around supporting the strategic plan work and how we actually work through that annual process and how we improve results for our learners. And then I also want to bring to the attention of the board that we are, our next Ignite Sounds Bite is coming up on February the 11th from 4 to 5:30. There are 9 learning opportunities for our staff. And again, any of you are also invited. And I know that some of you have come to attend at times. And so that's on February the 11th. And then our final, and I think our 3rd session is also scheduled for May 13th. So please put that in your calendar. We also had the great learning opportunity from the Deeper Learning Dozen. It was our virtual convening. It happened last week as well. Myself, Cheryl Coors, Thomas Longridge, Darcy Hoff, and Nicole Boucher, we were in attendance and we attended virtually from a number of sessions. It was a great learning experience and we had a lot of time to reflect and speak with 11 other districts, 3 in BC and 8, I'm counting, 8 from the United States as we learn and grow together. And our focus again is on equity. And then for the board's purpose, Pink Shirt Day is coming up, our anti-bullying day on February the 24th. And so that's an opportunity to share our support around anti-bullying, the anti-bullying campaign that has been around for a number of years. And then there's just a few school events to take note of. We have a drama challenge occurring in early March for our grades 4 and 5 and our grades 6s and 7s. We also have the traditional Young Authors Conference, and that is coming up for our grades 5 through 12 on May the 4th. And I would like to just close off my update there. And if there's any questions, I'm happy to take them before we move on for board action. Okay, I will move on for board action. So 8.2.1, we have the proposed 3-year school calendar. It is in the package today. We are in the last year of the previously approved 3-year school calendar. We are proposing a new 3-year school calendar for 2021 to 2024 school years that complies with the requirements of the School Act, the School Calendar Regulation, and the Teachers Collective Agreement. So we have to actually review all of those documents in order to ensure that we are promoting a calendar that works for all of those agreements. The board must make a proposed school calendar available to the public for feedback at least 1 month prior to submission of that calendar to the Minister of, to the minister on March the 31st. In preparing for the calendars for the next 3 years, the dates were first rolled over, then refined based on those requirements that I spoke of earlier, then compared to other districts around the province for alignment where possible, and previous community and partner group feedback is also taken into account. The 6 professional days, which are really the non-instructional days, have been spread evenly between semesters throughout the school year. And the October, February, and May professional days overseen by the Teachers Union are tentative and have been placed in historical positions until each year that the teachers unions actually ratify those dates for the following year. We have aligned our March breaks in this particular calendar with the majority of districts, including the additional district closure week in March, which has been part of our calendar the past 12 years as a cost savings measure of about $400,000 annually. And this is quite a common practice throughout the province. The instructional hours have been calculated monthly and yearly to ensure compliance, and each of the calendars meet the school calendar regulation requirements. We suggest the same method of public consultation for the 2021-2024 proposed calendars as the last process, which included use of our website, social media, and SurveyMonkey. This process both helped the public better understand the school calendars and provided useful feedback. Given that the board must make a proposed school calendar available to the public for feedback at least 1 month prior to submission of the calendar to the minister by March the 31st, we recommend the proposed calendars be made public to allow time for the board to be briefed at the February 23rd BEBC meeting regarding comments received before making their final decision on the proposed 2021-2024 school calendars at the March 2nd open board meeting. So there is a recommendation for the board, and that is that the Board of Education of School District 79 approves the proposed 3-year 2021 to 2024 school calendar to go out for consultation with our community.
Is there a mover? Trustee Croft? You're moving the motion, right? Yeah. Moved by Trustee Croft, seconded by Trustee DeGroot. Any debate on the motion? All those in, Trustee Hutchins.
I just have one question of the superintendent. Is this the first 3-year calendar that we have seen the professional development days placed in it?
No, this would be, I think, a regular process where they would be in there, and then on an annual basis, the teachers ratify those.
Okay, thank you.
Any further debate on the motion? All those in favor? Motion carries. Moving to 8.2.2.
Okay. Yes, so very exciting. There's an attached proposal that would have gone to BEBC meeting on January the 26th around an academy that was presented to the board and that now is being brought forward to the board for approval. As the proposal meets the criteria for a special day academy, we're looking at seeking board approval in establishing the Rugby Academy and approving the fees so that we can actually move that forward around student enrollment and registration in that particular academy. So the recommendation is that the Board of Education School District number 79 approves establishing a Rugby Academy at Cowichan Secondary School and authorize the fees to be set at $275 per month or $27.50 per school year for local district students, $750 per month or $7,500 per school year for students enrolling from out of province, and $1,500 per month or $15,000 per school year for international students.
Is there a mover for the motion? Moved by Trustee Hutchins, seconded by Trustee DeGroot. Conversation on the motion. Just one clarification. If we've got a fee for local district students and then out of province, what about in province students?
I would assume, I'm going to maybe even ask the Secretary Treasurer to respond to that, but I would assume that they would pay the same fees of a local student because they would be registering with us as a BC student.
I understand, and I see nods from the Secretary Treasurer. Okay, any further comments or debate on the motion? All those in favor? Motion carries. Moving to Bach courses, Superintendent.
Absolutely. We have 3 board authorized authority courses to propose to the board. Social media marketing 10, 11, and 12. It has been brought forward from Cowichan Secondary School. We have a very excited teacher to really look at how do you do marketing from a local perspective around a variety of different social media platforms. And so I'm bringing forward those 3 courses that have been, I think, analyzed and given feedback through a process and an internal process in the school district. And we also have a 4th one, which is very unique. It is around orientation and mobility 11, and it is for visually impaired students. And it is a provincial course, and it allows our students actually to achieve course credit around some of the work that they do with their supports in the school district. So I would like to recommend that the Board of Education approves the following BAA courses for implementation in September 2021.
Is there a mover for the motion? Trustee Croft, seconded by Trustee DeGroot. Any debate on the motion? All those in favor? Motion carries. Moving then to item 9, Secretary Treasurer, please.
Thank you. The board are required to adopt the amended budget by the end of February. It has gone through the Board Education and Business Committee on January 26th and been recommended to the board for approval. Highlights of this budget include the addition of federal dollars for the Restart Safe to Schools, provincial dollars for Restart Safe to Schools, as well as additional funding for the classroom enhancement funds. We're still continuing to receive significant funding for the restoration of the teacher collective agreement language. This is the largest budget the board will have ever adopted at $111,621,185. I think it was only a couple years ago that it was hit the 100 million mark, and we thought, wow. We've gone over the budget in significant detail at the BEBC meeting, so I don't have another presentation tonight other than to bring forward the motions as it was recommended from the committee level. So they are here, and we will ask for a motion to consider the waiving of the 3 readings. A motion to consider the requirement for 3 readings at 2 separate meetings as well.
Thank you. So we're ready to go into the motion on the first reading. Is there a mover for that? Moved by Trustee Croft, seconded by Trustee DeGroot. All those in favor? Motion carries. And this second reading motion can be debated if trustees wish to do so. So a mover for the second reading of the motion. Moved by Trustee Kemmler, seconded by Trustee DeGroot. Is there any conversation around this motion? All those in favor? Motion carries. Moving to the consideration of 3 readings this evening. Moved by Trustee DeGroot, seconded by Trustee Hutchins. Any debate on this motion? All those in favor? Motion carries. And moving to the last motion on this be the third reading for the budget. Moved by Trustee Croft, seconded by Trustee Hutchins. Any debate on this motion? All those in favor? Motion carries. Thank you, Secretary Treasurer. Moving to committees and outside organizations. The first A is minutes of the ad hoc COVID transition committee meeting of January 7th. Trustee Kemmler.
I move that we accept the minutes.
Moved by Trustee Kemmler, seconded by Trustee DeGroot. All those in favor? Motion carries. Moving to item B, which is highlights of the January 14th, 2021 DSAC meeting. Trustee Hutchins,
So move acceptance.
moved by Trustee Hutchins, seconded by Trustee Croft.
What a high energy meeting, I can tell you that.
Yes. All those in favor? Motion carries. Moving to item C, Trustee Croft. You're muted.
I'm so sorry. I'd like to move that the board receive the summary of the January 19th, 2021 advisory committee meeting.
Moved by Trustee Croft, seconded by Trustee DeGroot. All those in favor? Motion carries. Moving to item D, Trustee Hutchins.
So move receipt of the January 26th Board of Education and Business Committee meeting.
Thank you. Moved by Trustee Hutchins, seconded by Trustee Kemmler. All those in favor? Motion carries. Upcoming meetings and events on page 133. If you would just bring that up so the trustees who need to attend meetings know that this evening. Trustee Doman?
It's a DPAC meeting on February 19th, which is Friday night. Is that right?
Could Superintendent or Secretary Treasurer help us with that meeting date? Oh, it's on the 18th. It says from the president of DPAC on our chat. So that should be the 18th. And thank you. That's Trustee Dolman. And then we have DSAC, Trustee Kemmler on February the 11th. And just a reminder to other people who are involved in the vaping task force meeting and the ad hoc COVID transition committee meeting. Anything that trustees want to bring up or staff on upcoming meetings and events? Okay, thank you. So moving to correspondence, we have attached the letter back from Deputy Minister Scott MacDonald regarding our letter around distributed learning funding, where we were asking for an increase, and attached is the form letter. You can see that we are District 69, not 79, but that could be just a typo. And I'll ask for a motion to receive and file the correspondence. Moved by Trustee DeGroot, seconded by Trustee Hutchins.
With the chair's comments noted.
Uh-oh, all right. Thank you. All those in favor? Motion carries. There's no new business. Question period. Mr. Secretary Treasurer, if you could help me with that.
We'll monitor the question and answer and the chat for questions. So far, we don't have anything in here yet.
Okay, thank you.
But they may be typing, so maybe just allow 15 seconds and then close off.
Okay. Okay, so
nothing to report.
Great, thank you. So a motion to adjourn. Moved by Trustee Hutchins, seconded by Trustee Croft. All those in favor? Motion carries. Thank you, everyone. Second February meeting of the year and a fairly substantial one. So
Thank you.
Have a good evening.
Happy Groundhog Day.
Oh, yeah.
Right. Yes.
And you did the right thing.
Let's not repeat this though.
No. Okay.
Bye, everybody. Take care.
Bye, everybody. Talk
Bye.
soon. Bye-bye.